So you really have no idea of how large a plane the first one was?
No, I didn't even know that was a plane. I learned that from the news media. But I definitely saw the second plane. I heard it sound, and I saw it streaming in from the south. I watched it crash into the Trade Center.
These trade towers have always been, and you may have heard it already this morning, regarded as a prime target for this particular act of terrorism. As you know, there was terrorism at the World Trade Center before 1993. There was a huge bombing attack on the trade centers. These are the two at the southwestern corner of the island of Manhattan, just prime pieces of real estate of interest to anyone who wishes to hit either New York City or the United States in a very, very visible and vulnerable way.
You said you're very afraid, and understandably so. They're not evacuating your building?
No, I'm going to leave on my own, but I haven't heard any decisions made to that effect.
We're hearing, Marcia, from the Associated Press that the FBI is investigating reports of a plane hijacking before this crash. Have you heard anything on your end?
We haven't heard anything yet, but you know, the fact that the thing is that there are two things that happen when you have two crashes 18 minutes apart. It can be one of two things. It can be something that was planned by a terrorist group, or it can be just that the air traffic control system completely crashed. This is going to take a lot of investigating. It's too early to rush to judgment. Right now, I think the major concern for most people here in New York City is getting the people out of the building and treating the casualties.
Darren Kagan joining the conversation here, sir, but there's no indication that there would be any air traffic on purpose in the area of the World Trade Center at this time of day, or any time of day for that matter.
Well, not directly into the World Trade Center.
No, but even close to it.
You would be clearing the World Trade Center by a few miles.
Can you put out a note, or maybe I will myself? People have been coming up to me to try to reach their family and friends and relatives to tell them that they're okay. We ought to put it out that no one that we know of was hurt on the ground or in any place around the building, that this outrage appears to be concentrated on the buildings themselves. So anybody who has a relative or a friend in Lower Manhattan, they are not likely to have been affected physically by what happened here.
Let me ask you this about the airspace. Given that it appears that two different airplanes have flown into the World Trade Center in 18 minutes, is it possible to shut down that airspace and keep another plane from doing something just like it?
I don't think that this represents an accident. And so I don't think that we're talking about having to now keep other aircraft away. This picture that CNN is broadcasting live is probably from a range of a couple of miles away, and you can see that.
No, certainly that, but if there was somebody who intentionally was trying to do the same thing again, is there a way to shut down the airspace to keep planes out?
No, you can't shut down airspace. There's no gate, there's no fence in airspace. All you can do is broadcast that airspace is closed. But if someone is intent on breaking through it, that happens with our military airspace all the time off the coast.
The reports are, again, these are very unconfirmed. We're trying to be responsible with what we bring you here. But the reports of a hijacking of a plane coming into the FBI, a hijacking of a plane shortly before this incident took place. Now, you can imagine if a couple of trained pilots, and this would not be beyond the reach of many terrorist organizations around the world, a couple of trained pilots were to take control of one of these sophisticated jetliners. Once they're in the air, folks, they are easy to fly. And you disengage the autopilot, you can take that plane anywhere you want to go.
One fuselage we thought had exploded after sticking inside one of the Twin Towers. Then we come to find out after looking at videotape that you have seen here several times that a second plane has hit the other Twin Tower. Both Twin Towers in New York City right now fully engulfed from the top floors up, smoke looming. I would certainly hope at some time, folks, we can go to John Del Giorno, because John knows a lot about flight. Okay, I'm just being told that our electronic gear that transports John's voice signal is located at the top of the World Trade Center. So that's going to be a problem getting to John. If John wants to feed us any information through our producer's desk via phone, Certainly, John, I could use the help here on your knowledge of flight.
Mr. Bush is scheduled to address the school here and then return to the White House later in the day for a congressional barbecue at the White House. One must imagine that he may be going home a little earlier than scheduled, and that the barbecue, if it is held, will be a very somber affair.
You've got one eyewitness telling you that the first aircraft flew from Westchester and flew down through Manhattan and directly into the World Trade Center, presumably the North Tower. And now you've got, you're showing the other aircraft coming in, looks to me like it would be from the west, into the other tower.
Eyewitnesses tell me, and this of course is not confirmed, that only one tower was involved the first time, and that the second time, the second accident, is when the other tower got involved. You can see debris, much of it flying left, right, looking like eerily similar of a fireworks display.
Obviously, this is already having quite an effect on the city of New York. Here, take a look at this video. Let's just look at this one more time. There you see the plane.
Between the two buildings.
And then you see the explosion.
Right there. Unbelievable.
Secret Service agents are also watching the video on Fox and other television networks. All sense that this may well be a terrorist incident of some kind, and something that will certainly draw the president's involvement. We've got a report from the FBI that a 737 was hijacked very shortly before the second plane flew into the other World Trade Center tower. And as you can aware, the president, who travels with secure communication to his national security staff, is being briefed about this even as we speak. John?
The FBI now is reporting to the Associated Press that this is foul play. This is not an accident. The FBI has told the Associated Press that two planes that have gone into the World Trade Center are not by accident, that it is foul play involved. I speculated earlier and certainly questioned earlier that perhaps navigational equipment might have been disrupted or harmed that would cause two planes to take such a tack.
To take a look now, this tape is from earlier. As you see the second jetliner, and we don't have an identification on that jetliner yet, but you see that jetliner slamming into the second tower of the World Trade Center.
And let me interrupt for just 1 second. I'm looking at a report that the FBI is investigating reports of a plane hijacking. Did you have any news of that?
No, we don't.
No confirmation of that whatsoever?
We have no confirmation
Is anybody
of
even
that.
there discussing that?
No, the only discussion that's been going on here, Brian, is that the World Trade Center has obvious symbolic value. It's been a target before of terrorism, and frankly, it would not surprise the FBI or anyone in national security if it was a target again.
Good morning, and what can you tell us? Where were you and what did you see?
I'm standing on the roof of my building in the Lower East Side, and I had rushed up here to see what was on the news, and I couldn't believe it, and suddenly a very large jumbo, which might have been an Airbus with navy blue and bright red markings, which might have been an American, some sort of American plane, just suddenly came diving into the building, which was just terrifying because you could see it happening, and it just headed right for the building, which seems to be quite a coincidence.
John Del Giorno, who is one of our flight experts. He is a News Chopper 7. And John, good to have you on the line. John, what can you tell us? John, are you with us?
We are currently hovering just north of Midtown Manhattan. We're over the west side of Manhattan here at 79th Street, looking south towards the World Trade Center. Just an absolutely staggering sight as both towers of the World Trade Center are currently billowing in smoke.
The other question is, perhaps, were they in the air and hijacked? Did they come from Canada? I want to just point out that there was the plane that we just saw that crashed into the World Trade Center. It could be a 737. It could be one of the smaller Airbuses that are twin engines that are flown by Air Canada, and they obviously came down from the north.
Shortly after that, as the first building was engulfed in flames, we were on our way to the scene, and we witnessed a second airplane from what I believe, in my experience, to be a Boeing 737 strike the south side of the second tower, the south tower, and that is the second row of flames that you see here. That airplane appeared to hit a little bit down the building around the 50th or 60th floor. Again, it struck flush into the south side of the South World Trade Center building. And this is actually here, appears to be debris that has passed through the building and is currently on fire.
Towards the, definitely towards the front. It definitely did not look like a commercial plane. I didn't see any windows on the sides. And as far as I knew, when I saw it coming down, I was like, well, LaGuardia is pretty far away, and that plane is really slow. And definitely very low. And I'm completely panicked. I'm sitting here freaking out. I cannot believe what I just saw.
We are all shaken by this.
Oh, my God.
What do you see? You see the smoke?
Oh, no.
Are you able to see something that we're not able to see on our monitor right now?
No, I'm sorry. It has nothing to do with this.
Okay. But you're not able to see anybody on the ground there, Ms. Shaw, huh?
No, I can't. I can't.
All right. We appreciate your calling very much.
Sometimes the obvious leads you to a conclusion. We're looking at two crashes, 18 minutes apart, into an obvious target, a building that has never been hit with a plane before on a clear day. What do the intelligence people there say about that?
We cannot get a good look at what is happening on the ground, but again, initial eyewitness reports from the scene stated that actually very little of the debris from the airplane fell down to the street. Most of it appears to be embedded in the buildings here, both World Trade Center number 1 and World Trade Center number 2.
John, can you hear me? John Del Giorno, we might have some problems, they told me, with communication. Can you hear me, John? Okay, John can't hear me.
The intelligence community for some time has been warning in a steady drumbeat, Brian, that Osama bin Laden has not been heard from now, frankly, since the beginning of the year, the USS Cole incident, rather, and they've been wondering when and if he will strike again, and they only believed it was a matter of time. And I believe that today that is going to be their first suspicion, but we have no confirmation of that. I must underline, there's no confirmation that this is a terrorist attack, number 1, or number 2, that it's Osama bin Laden involvement. But I can tell you right now, that is what they are thinking, that is the working premise, and we'll just have to see as the day unfolds what they discover.
If what you say is true, those could be cargo planes or something like that. You said you didn't see any windows in the side?
I didn't see any windows on the sides. I saw the plane flying low. I was probably like a block away from the subway in Brooklyn, and that plane came down very low. And again, it was not a normal flight that I've ever seen at an airport. It was a plane that had a blue logo on the front, and it did not look like it belonged in this area, to be frankly about it. I mean, that's not an accident.
It reminded me and them of Oklahoma City. There's pure astonishment, I can tell you, at FBI headquarters this morning, and they are trying to find out the facts just as we are. And right now, they don't have any.
And as you noted, Jim, this has been a target before. Back on February 26, 93, a terrorist act at the World Trade Center killed 6 and injured more than 1,000 others. Do you know whether or not the FBI had received any warnings about attacks on domestic soil?
You know, frankly, no, and it's a question that we ask every day.
Katie, the reaction here to the pictures you're seeing and to the initial pictures when they came up, even in what's called the lower press office here at the White House, was one of shock. I mean, people are just standing around television monitors looking at this. And when I say people, I don't mean just the reporters. I mean the people who are actually in the office who work here at the White House.
Brian,
go ahead.
We've just been told that and this should not be come as a surprise. It's standard procedure by the FBI. Their rapid deployment team from the Washington field office, this is a group of people that they send to major disaster and terrorist incidents, such as the twin embassy bombings in Africa. They have now been dispatched to New York.
Pentagon officials are already calling this a terrorist attack. They say that they have not yet ordered the scrambling of any military jets.
I have reason to believe, too, that some members of the HRT, that's the hostage rescue team, have been put on alert. We don't have any word yet that they would be sent. And these are standard procedures that would take place anytime a major terrorist incident occurs. But this would be a group of approximately 60 experts, people who are very good at picking up the bits of debris that we've been talking about falling on the streets of New York and turning that into evidence should they discover that this, in fact, was a deliberate act.